No doubt some of you will say that I should stop privileging free speech over this amendment because it will mandate the police, to quote the charities, to gather crucial evidence about the extent, nature and prevalence of hostility towards women and girls and how it relates to domestic abuse. But let's be clear, this is actually an illusion too, even a deception, because to present this amendment as having anything to do with women or girls is not true, because women aren't mentioned in the wording and they are not the focus at all of the amendment. In fact, the language used is very particular and purposeful. An amendment championed in the public realm as anti-misogyny and assumed to be about women talks of hostility towards persons who are of a particular sex or gender. And this can only muddy the waters and make any data collection unreliable and opaque. And I think citing the Law Commission as an explanation for the wording doesn't work because the Law Commission hasn't yet reported. Gender is not defined in UK law and is a cultural identity, malleable, subjective, one of choice. Sex is, however, a material, objective reality. The Office for Statistics Regulation recently emphasised the need for clarity about definitions and stressed that sex and gender should not be used interchangeably in official statistics. And it gave the example of criminal justice statistics, highlighting that variation in the way that data about sex is captured across the system means it's not possible to know what definition of sex is being captured. And this in turn places limitations on how some criminal justice statistics can be interpreted and used. And I would say, and I'm quoting here from the new resource Sex Matters, that by adding the word gender into this confusing mix, this amendment undermines any possibility of accurate information being accrued, let alone the prior problem that that information is based on perception, subjective perception. If our intention is for the police to track whether domestic abuse crimes against women are based on prejudice and hatred, that should be simple enough to do if the police have a clear definition and a reliable data field for the sex of victims and perpetrators. This amendment won't help, and it will confuse the situation. My Lords, if there is one example of misogyny in plain sight, surely it's here. If I thought erasing the word woman from the maternity bill was bad, not naming women in an amendment on misogyny seems even worse. And more grotesque, this could mean that women will be labelled by the police as misogynistic perpetrators if they are perceived as hostile to a person's gender in a domestic setting. The mother who misgenders their child, are they the perpetrator, the hate criminal? The female staff at a women's refuge whose position on sex-based rights and service provision is perceived as motivated by prejudice. This highly charged and febrile atmosphere of the last week, of which I'm very sensitive, focusing on violence against women, must not pressurise us into passing an amendment that will allow this bill to be the midwife of criminalising women with gender-critical views and won't anyway help us understand or help any victim of domestic abuse.